I wasn't supposed to be at the Venetian Grand Hotel that night. My best friend Camilla practically dragged me there, insisting I needed to get back out into the world after months of hiding in my studio apartment. She'd bought me this dress, emerald silk that cost more than my rent, and promised Marcus wouldn't be there. She lied. I saw him the second I walked into the ballroom. Marcus Holt, my ex-fiancé, standing near the bar in his tailored suit, scanning the crowd like a predator searching for prey. When his eyes locked on mine, something cold slithered down my spine. I turned and walked the other direction. Fast, but not running. Running would draw attention, and attention was the last thing I needed. The Venetian's charity gala was packed with Seattle's elite, politicians, tech moguls, old money families who'd been running the city since before I was born. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, casting golden light across marble floors. An orchestra played something classical in the corner. Everyone looked so polished, so comfortable in their wealth. I felt like an imposter in borrowed silk. "Isabel," Marcus's voice cut through the music. Too loud. People turned to look. My heart hammered against my ribs. I pushed through a cluster of women in designer gowns, mumbling apologies, heading for the terrace doors. Fresh air. Space. Somewhere I could breathe and figure out my next move. Marcus had been calling for weeks, showing up at my apartment, leaving flowers outside my door with notes that started sweet and turned threatening. "You belong with me. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this." The restraining order I'd filed apparently meant nothing to him. I made it to the terrace, stepping into October air that bit through the thin silk. Behind me, Marcus called my name again. Closer now. I spun around, backing away from the doors, and that's when everything went sideways. My heel caught on something. The world tilted. I fell backward, arms flailing, bracing for impact with the stone floor. Instead, I landed in someone's lap. Strong arms caught me, steadied me, and when I looked up into the face of the man who'd broken my fall, every thought in my head evaporated. He was beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. All sharp angles and olive skin. Eyes so dark they were almost black, watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car, tailored perfectly to broad shoulders. But it wasn't his looks that made my pulse spike. It was the way everyone around us had suddenly gone quiet. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, trying to stand. His arms released me immediately, but his hand steadied my elbow as I found my balance. "I didn't see... Isabel." Marcus's voice, right behind me. I turned to find my ex standing 3 feet away, his face red with anger. Or maybe alcohol. His eyes were wild, unfocused. How much had he been drinking? "We need to talk," Marcus said, reaching for my arm. "No." I stepped back, right into the stranger's space. Marcus's hand froze mid-air. His eyes shifted to the man behind me, and something I'd never seen before crossed his face. Fear. "Mr. Vitale," Marcus said, his voice suddenly different. Smaller. "I didn't realize this is just a misunderstanding. Isabel is my fiancée. Ex-fiancée," I corrected, my voice shaking. "We broke up 4 months ago." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Baby, we've been through this. You were upset. You weren't thinking clearly?" "She seems perfectly clear to me," the stranger, Mr. Vitale, said softly. His voice was quiet, calm, but something in it made Marcus take a step backward. I felt Vitale stand up behind me. He didn't touch me, but I felt his presence like heat against my back. Tall enough that I had to tilt my head to see his face. close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and understated. "You're making a scene, Holt," Vitale said, still soft, still calm. "At a charity event, in front of people who matter." Marcus's face went from red to white. "This is none of your business." "It is now." Vitale's hand settled on my lower back. Light, barely there. But the claim was unmistakable. "She's under my protection." The terrace had gone completely silent. I could feel dozens of eyes on us. Seattle's elite watching this confrontation unfold like theater. Marcus looked between us, his expression twisting into something ugly. "You don't know what you're getting into," he hissed at me. "You have no idea who—" "I suggest you leave," Vitale interrupted, "before this becomes more embarrassing than it already is." For a long moment, Marcus just stood there. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. His breathing came too fast, too shallow. I'd seen him like this before, right on the edge of losing control. But then 3 men in dark suits materialized from the shadows. They didn't say anything, didn't touch Marcus, just positioned themselves around us in a loose circle that somehow felt like a wall. Marcus took another step back, his eyes fixed on mine, and what I saw there made my blood run cold. Rage, pure, undiluted rage. "This isn't over," he said quietly. Then he turned and walked back into the ballroom, disappearing into the crowd. I realized I'd been holding my breath. When I let it out, my whole body started shaking. "Easy," Vitale murmured. His hand stayed on my back, steady and warm. "You're safe with me now." Those 4 words, they should have sounded like a threat. This man was a stranger. I'd literally fallen into his lap 30 seconds ago. I knew nothing about him except that Marcus, who feared nothing, was terrified of him. But somehow, those 4 words felt like the first true thing anyone had said to me in months. I turned to face him. Up close, he was even more striking, and more intimidating. He had to be 6'3", maybe 6'4", with the kind of build that came from discipline, not gyms. A small scar cut through his left eyebrow. His hands, when I glanced down, had scarring across the knuckles. This was not a soft man. "Thank you," I managed. "I don't know what I would have—" "We should talk," he said. "Somewhere private." Every instinct I had screamed warning. Strange man. Private conversation. This was how bad decisions started. But then I caught sight of Marcus through the terrace doors. He stood near the bar, phone pressed to his ear, eyes locked on me. Even from here, I could see his mouth moving rapidly, making calls, planning something. Marcus had never taken no for an answer. Not about my job. Not about where I lived. Not about who I could see. And definitely not about leaving him. I'd tried running before. Changed my apartment 3 times. He always found me. The restraining order hadn't stopped him. The police couldn't help me. He had lawyers, connections, money. Every time I thought I'd gotten away, there he was, charming the landlord, or sweet-talking the building security, or showing up at my new job with flowers and apologies. I was so tired of running. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Let's talk." Vitale's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Approval? Satisfaction? I couldn't tell. He offered me his arm like we were at some Victorian ball. When I hesitated, he said quietly, "The gentleman's exit is through the main doors, but you don't strike me as someone who wants Marcus following us. There's another way out?" His mouth curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached his eyes. "There's always another way out, Isabel." He knew my name. Marcus had said it, but still, the familiarity sent a shiver through me. I took his arm. We walked back through the terrace doors, past the staring crowd. Marcus started toward us, but one of the men in dark suits stepped into his path. No words, just a wall of muscle that Marcus couldn't get around without making a bigger scene. Vitale guided me through the ballroom with the ease of someone who owned the space. People moved out of our way without being asked. A woman in diamonds stared at me with open curiosity. A senator I recognized from the news nodded to Vitale with respect. No, not respect. Deference. We reached a service corridor I hadn't noticed before. The sounds of the gala faded behind us as we walked down a hallway lined with staff rushing between the kitchen and event spaces. They all gave Vitale a wide berth. At the end of the corridor, an elevator waited. Private, the kind that required a key card. Vitale pressed his thumb to a scanner. The doors opened immediately. "After you," he said. I stepped inside. The elevator was all dark wood and brass, with only 2 buttons: lobby and penthouse. He pressed penthouse. As the doors slid shut, cutting us off from the rest of the world, one thought crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. I had absolutely no idea who Alessandro Vitale was. But Marcus was terrified of him. And right now, that felt like enough. The elevator was silent except for the soft hum of machinery. Alessandro Vitale stood beside me, hands clasped loosely in front of him, watching the floor numbers climb. He didn't speak, didn't look at me, just radiated this calm, controlled energy that somehow felt more dangerous than Marcus's rage ever had. I should have been scared. Maybe I was. But exhaustion was winning over fear. 4 months of looking over my shoulder. 4 months of changing my routine, my route to work, my entire life to avoid one man who refused to accept that I'd left him. The elevator stopped. Vitale gestured for me to exit first. We stepped into a private vestibule. Marble floors, abstract art on the walls, a single door at the end. He led me through it into what had to be the most luxurious apartment I'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown Seattle, the city lights spreading out like scattered diamonds. Modern furniture in blacks and grays. Art that probably belonged in museums. Everything sleek and expensive, and utterly impersonal. "Drink?" he asked, walking to a bar that looked like it belonged in a 5-star hotel. "Water," I managed. He poured water into crystal glasses. Actual crystal, not the cheap stuff, and handed me one. Our fingers brushed. His were warm, rough. The hands of someone who'd done more than sign papers and shake hands. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a leather couch that probably cost more than my yearly salary. I sat. He took the chair across from me, close enough to talk, but far enough to feel deliberate. "You have questions," he said. "About 1,000. Start with the most important one." I took a breath. "Who are you?" "Alessandro Vitale. I own several businesses in Seattle. Import-export primarily. Real estate. A few restaurants." He said it like he was reading from a resume. "And Marcus is afraid of you because..." His expression didn't change. "Because I'm not someone you want as an enemy." The way he said it, so matter-of-fact, so devoid of ego, made it more terrifying than any threat. "Why did you help me?" I asked. "Because Marcus Holt is a problem that needs solving." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have right now." He leaned forward slightly. "Your ex-fiancé has made some very poor decisions, Isabel. He's involved with people who don't forgive mistakes. And his obsession with you has made you a liability." My hands tightened around the water glass. "What kind of people?" "The Russian bratva. Organized crime. Marcus has been laundering money for them through his consulting firm for 2 years. He got greedy, skimmed $15 million, and tried to cover his tracks by framing several legitimate businesses, including mine. The words hit me like physical blows. Marcus. My Marcus, who took me to farmers markets and knew my coffee order and talked about having kids someday. Money laundering. Russian mafia. You're lying, I whispered. I wish I was. Vitaly pulled out his phone, swiped through screens and turned it toward me. Photos, bank transfers, documents with Marcus's signature, email chains discussing shipments and clients in language that couldn't mean anything legal. My stomach turned. The Bratva wants their money back, Vitaly continued. Marcus doesn't have it. He spent most of it trying to impress you, actually. The engagement ring alone was $500,000. I looked down at my bare left hand. I'd given the ring back when I left. Had it really been worth... So they're going to kill him, I said numbly. Eventually. But first, they're going to use him to hurt me. The frame-up failed, but Marcus is desperate enough to try again. And desperate men make mistakes. He paused. They also use whatever leverage they can find. The implication hit me cold and hard. Me, I breathed. I'm leverage. You're the only thing Marcus cares about more than saving his own skin, which makes you valuable to the Bratva. They'll use you to control him, or they'll hurt you to punish him. Vitaly's voice stayed level, clinical. Either way, you're in danger. My phone buzzed in my clutch. Then again, and again. I pulled it out with shaking hands. 17 missed calls, 23 text messages, all from Marcus. The first few were apologies. I'm sorry, baby. I was just surprised to see you. Then confusion. Why are you with him? Do you know who he is? Then anger. You're making a mistake. You don't understand what you're doing. Then threats. If you don't answer me right now, I swear to God. Vitaly plucked the phone from my hands. I was too numb to protest. He scrolled through the messages, his expression darkening with each one. Option 1, he said finally. I make you disappear. New identity, new city, enough money to start over somewhere Marcus and the Bratva will never find you. You walk away from everything. Your life, your friends, your job. But you're safe. I tried to imagine it. Running again. Starting over. Leaving behind the few pieces of myself I'd managed to hold on to. Option 2, he continued. You stay under my protection until the threat is eliminated. Marcus and the Bratva are dealt with permanently. You keep your life, your identity, everything. But you'll be watched, guarded, restricted, for as long as it takes. How long is that? I don't know. At least he was honest. And what do you get out of this? I asked. Nobody helps for nothing. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe. You're right. I want Marcus. I want proof of what he's done so I can clear my organization's name. And I want to send a message to the Bratva that framing me has consequences. So I'm bait. No, he said it firmly. You're protected. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again in his hand. He glanced at the screen, then powered it off completely. He's already making calls, Vitaly said, trying to find out where you went, who you're with. In about 10 minutes, he's going to figure out you're with me. And then things get complicated fast. They're not already complicated? His mouth almost smiled. This is Seattle on a Tuesday night, Isabel. Complicated hasn't even started yet. He stood, walked to the window, looked out over the city lights. I need an answer, he said quietly. Option 1 or option 2. Run or stay. Decide now. I thought about running. New city. New name. New life. But I'd been running for 4 months already. Running from Marcus. Running from my own choices. Running from the reality that I'd spent 3 years engaged to a man I'd never really known. I was so tired of running. Option 2, I heard myself say. I stay. Vitali turned from the window. In the city lights behind him, his face was half shadow, half illumination. You're sure? No, I admitted. But I'm tired of being afraid. And at least this way, I get my life back. He walked back to where I sat, extended his hand. Then we have an agreement. I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, the handshake of someone who meant what they said. Welcome to the pinnacle, Isabel, he said. You're safe here. I give you my word. I wanted to believe him. But as he walked me down a hallway to what would apparently be my room, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just traded one prison for another, even if this one had better views. 3 days. I'd been in Alessandro Vitali's penthouse for 3 days, and I still hadn't seen most of it. What I had seen was beautiful. My bedroom alone was bigger than my entire studio apartment. King-sized bed with sheets that felt like silk, a bathroom with a soaking tub and rain shower, windows that overlooked Elliott Bay. There was a sitting area with a couch and bookshelves, a walk-in closet that stayed mostly empty. Mostly because on the second morning I'd opened the closet to find it half filled with clothes. Women's clothes. In my size. Designer labels I recognized from magazines but had never touched in real life. Dresses, jeans, sweaters, even pajamas. All perfectly organized by color and type. I'd stood there for 10 minutes just staring. Alessandro had done this, or someone on his staff had, following his orders, which meant he'd known my size, known I'd say yes to staying, known I'd need clothes. This wasn't spontaneous protection. This was planned. Good morning, Isabel. I jumped, spinning around to find a woman standing in my doorway. Tall, athletic build, dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She wore all black, tactical pants, fitted shirt, boots that looked military grade. A gun sat holstered at her hip, not even trying to be concealed. Sorry, she said, though she didn't look sorry. Didn't mean to startle you. I'm Sophia. Day shift security. You've been here before, I realized. I've seen you in the hallway. That's the job. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Mr. Vitale asked me to check on you. Make sure you have everything you need. Everything I need except freedom, I thought. But I didn't say it. I'm fine, I said instead. Sophia nodded toward the closet. The clothes fit okay? How did he know my size? Mr. Vitale is thorough. She said it like that explained everything. Breakfast is ready if you're hungry. Luca's making eggs. Luca. Night shift security. He's not great with conversation, but he makes excellent breakfast. Sophia gestured for me to follow her. Come on, you've been hiding in here for 3 days. Time to explore your new home. Home felt like the wrong word, but I followed her anyway. The kitchen was massive, all marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. A man stood at the stove, broad-shouldered and serious, turning scrambled eggs with mechanical precision. He glanced up when we entered, gave me a single nod, then went back to cooking. That's Luca, Sophia said. He doesn't talk much. I talk when there's something worth saying, Luca rumbled. His voice sounded like gravel. Eggs are ready. Sophia poured coffee, while Luca plated food with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. They moved around each other with practiced ease, like dancers who knew each step. I sat at the breakfast bar, feeling like an intruder in someone else's choreography. Where's Alessandro? I asked. Mr. Vitale, Sophia corrected gently, is handling business. He's been out since 4 this morning. Doing what? Sophia and Luca exchanged a look I couldn't read. Business, Luca repeated. Like that was an answer. I picked at my eggs. They were perfect, Fluffy, seasoned just right, probably made with ingredients that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Everything here was perfect, and I hated it. "Can I go outside?" I asked. "No," they said in unison. "Can I make a phone call?" "To who?" Sophia asked. "My mother. She's in a care facility, and she worries when—" "Mr. Vitale has already contacted the facility," Luca interrupted. "Arranged for upgraded care, private room, best doctors. Your mother thinks you're traveling for work. She's fine." My fork clattered against the plate. "He what?" "He's making sure she's taken care of," Sophia said carefully. "That's a good thing, Isabel." "That's controlling," I snapped. "I didn't ask him to do that." "You didn't have to," Lucas said. "It's what he does." I pushed away from the breakfast bar, suddenly needing space. "I need air." "Terrace is secure," Sophia offered. I need air that's not in this apartment." "That's not possible right now." I turned on her. "Why? What's happening that you're not telling me?" Sophia's expression softened slightly. "Marcus has been making threats, public ones. The Bratva is moving resources around Seattle. Mr. Vitale is handling it, but until he does, you stay here where it's safe." Safe. That word again. I was starting to hate it as much as I hated perfect eggs and expensive clothes, and the way everyone called him Mr. Vitale, like he was royalty. "I'm going to explore," I announced, since apparently that's the only freedom I have left. Neither of them stopped me. I walked through the penthouse with growing frustration. Library with first editions behind glass. Home theater with seats like luxury cars. Gym that looked like something from a magazine. Office with 3 computer monitors and file cabinets that were probably locked. Everything designed. Everything controlled. Everything perfect. I found Alessandro's study almost by accident, a door slightly ajar at the end of a hallway I hadn't explored yet. I knew I shouldn't go in. This was his private space, his sanctuary, and I was a guest at best, prisoner at worst. But I pushed the door open anyway. The study was darker than the rest of the penthouse. Heavy curtains blocked most of the natural light. The desk was massive, dark wood, antique, covered in papers and files. Built-in bookshelves lined one wall, filled with leather-bound volumes. And on the other wall, a corkboard, covered in photos. Of me. I walked closer, my heart hammering. There had to be 20 pictures pinned to that board. Me leaving my apartment building. Me at the coffee shop I went to every morning. Me at work, visible through the window of the small marketing firm where I'd been a junior copywriter. Me at the park. Me at the grocery store. Me everywhere I'd been for the past. I checked the dates written in the corners. 6 weeks. Alessandro Vitale had been watching me for 6 weeks before the gala. You weren't supposed to see that. I spun around. Alessandro stood in the doorway, still wearing the black suit from this morning, looking tired in a way that made the shadows under his eyes more pronounced. "You've been following me," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Watching, not following. He stepped into the study, closing the door behind him. "There's a difference." "Really? Because from here it looks like stalking." He didn't deny it. Just walked to the corkboard and started unpinning photos, methodical and calm. "I needed to understand who you were," he said quietly. "What Marcus saw in you. Why he was so obsessed. Whether you were complicit in his schemes or truly a victim." "And?" He turned to face me, holding a stack of photos in his hands. "I saw footage of him attacking you. 6 weeks ago, outside your building. You fought back hard enough to get away, but he hurt you. Bruised your arm so badly you wore long sleeves for 2 weeks in September." My hand went unconsciously to my left arm, where the bruises had finally faded. I watched you change your entire life to avoid him, Alessandro continued. New routes to work, different grocery stores. You stopped going to the gym you loved because he knew the schedule. You gave up everything that made you happy just to stay safe from one man. So you decided to watch me too. That's supposed to make me feel better? No. He set the photos on his desk. It's supposed to make you understand that when I said I'd protect you, I meant it. I've been preparing for this since the moment I realized Marcus would never let you go peacefully. The room felt too small suddenly. Too intimate? This man had been watching me for weeks, learning my patterns, my routines, my life. And some part of me had known. Some instinct had kept me looking over my shoulder, feeling observed. I'd thought it was Marcus, but it had been both of them. You should have told me, I said. Would you have believed me? If I'd approached you 6 weeks ago and said your ex-fiancé was laundering money for the Russian mob and you needed protection from a stranger? He had a point. Alessandro walked to the window, pulled back the heavy curtains. Afternoon light spilled in, washing over both of us. I was going to kill him, he said quietly. At the gala, I had a plan, a window, clean exit. But then you fell into my lap. He turned to look at me, and I saw your face. How terrified you were. And I couldn't do it. Not in front of you. So this is my fault, I said bitterly. No. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. This is Marcus's fault. His choices. His crimes. His obsession. You're not responsible for any of it. Then why do I feel like I am? Something in his expression cracked. Just for a second, I saw past the controlled exterior to something raw underneath. Because you're human, he said softly. And humans blame themselves for things beyond their control. It's what makes you good. What makes you different from men like Marcus. Or me. You're not like Marcus. I'm worse in ways that matter. He stepped back, rebuilding the walls I'd glimpsed behind. But I keep my promises. And I promised you'd be safe. That hasn't changed. I looked at the photos on his desk. All those captured moments of my life. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait, Alessandro said. Marcus is making mistakes. Desperate, sloppy mistakes. The Bratva is losing patience. Soon they'll move against him. And when they do, I'll be ready. And me? You stay here, where I know you're protected. He paused. I know it's not freedom, Isabel, but it's better than being dead. He walked past me toward the door, then stopped. The clothes fit? He asked. Yes. Good. Dinner's at 7 if you'd like to join me. No obligation. Sophia can bring something to your room if you'd prefer. He left before I could answer. I stood in his study, surrounded by evidence of his surveillance, and tried to figure out if I should be angry or grateful. Maybe both. Outside the window, Seattle sparkled in afternoon sun. Free and open and impossibly far away. 3 days in a gilded cage. I wondered how many more it would be before the bars stopped feeling like protection and started feeling like prison. I didn't join Alessandro for dinner that night, or the next. But on the 4th night, curiosity won over stubbornness. Sophia led me to a dining room I hadn't seen before, smaller than I expected, more intimate. A table set for 2 with actual candles, though the flames were probably some expensive LED alternative, because real fire would be a security risk. Alessandro sat at one end, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when I entered, and I caught a flash of surprise before his expression smoothed into neutrality. Isabel. He stood, pulled out my chair. I'm glad you came. I sat, uncomfortable with the formality. Sophia said the chef made something special. Sophia says a lot of things. But there was warmth in his voice, almost fondness. Dinner was incredible. Some kind of pasta I couldn't pronounce. Wine that probably cost more than my car. Dessert that melted on my tongue. We ate mostly in silence, which should have been awkward, but somehow wasn't. "Tell me about your mother," Alessandro said eventually. I looked up, surprised. "What do you want to know?" "Why she's in a care facility. What happened?" "Early onset Alzheimer's," I said quietly. "She was diagnosed 3 years ago. It progressed fast. She didn't recognize me by year 2. I'm sorry." "Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't pay for memory care." Alessandro set down his wine glass. "Is that why you stayed with Marcus? He helped with the bills?" "He offered. I said no at first, but," I trailed off. "He was persistent. Said he loved me, wanted to help. What kind of fiancé would he be if he didn't support his future wife's family?" I laughed bitterly. I was so grateful. So stupid. Not stupid. Human. Same thing sometimes. Alessandro studied me across the table. "The facility she's in now is one of the best in Seattle. I've arranged for her to stay there indefinitely, all expenses covered. You don't need to worry about, I didn't ask you to do that." "I know." "So why did you?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because I can. Because you shouldn't have to choose between your safety and your mother's care. Because..." The lights went out. Not just the dining room. Everything. The entire penthouse plunged into darkness so complete I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. "Don't move," Alessandro said. His voice had changed completely. No longer calm and measured, but sharp with command. I heard him stand. Heard footsteps, fast and purposeful. Then the emergency lighting kicked in. Dim red bulbs along the baseboards. Enough to see shapes, but not details. Alessandro was at the door, speaking into a phone that had appeared from somewhere. "Report." A pause. "How many?" Another pause. His expression went from concerned to cold. "Lock it down. Protocol. 7. He ended the call, turned to me. "We need to move. Now." "What's happening?" "Someone cut the power. Building security is compromised." He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed my arm. Not rough, but firm. "Stay close to me. Don't make a sound." He pulled me into the hallway, just as I heard the first gunshot. It came from somewhere below us, a sharp crack that echoed through the building like thunder. Then another, and another. "Run," Alessandro said. We ran. He kept one hand on my arm, guiding me through the dark hallway toward... I didn't know where. Everything looked different in the red emergency lighting. Familiar rooms became alien landscapes. More gunshots. Closer now. Alessandro pulled me into his study, slammed the door, locked it, grabbed something from his desk. When he turned back around, he had a gun in his hand. "There's a panic room," he said, already moving toward the bookshelves. "Hidden behind..." The study door exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded. Someone had blown the lock with enough force to splinter the wood frame. 3 men rushed in. Big, armed, wearing tactical gear. They spoke rapid Russian to each other, rifles raised. Alessandro moved faster than I thought possible. He shot the first man before I could blink. The second one got a shot off, but Alessandro was already moving, using the desk for cover. Return fire. The man went down. The third man turned his rifle toward me. I screamed. Sophia appeared from nowhere, literally nowhere. I had no idea where she'd been hiding, and tackled the man from behind. They went down together, struggling for the weapon. Alessandro fired once. The man stopped moving. Sophia rolled away, breathing hard. blood on her tactical shirt. I couldn't tell if it was hers or his. "More coming," she gasped. "At least 6 more. Maybe 10. "Get her to the panic room," Alessandro ordered. Sophia grabbed my hand, pulled me toward the bookshelf that was apparently not actually a bookshelf. She pressed something, and a section swung inward, revealing a steel door with a keypad. "Inside," Sophia said, punching in a code. "What about you?" I heard myself ask. "I've got the boss." She smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. "Go. Be safe." She shoved me through the door. The panic room was small, maybe 10 by 10 feet, with a bench along one wall, monitors showing security feeds, a phone, supplies. The door swung shut behind me with a heavy thunk. Through the monitors, I watched Sophia and Alessandro take positions in the study. More men poured in. I counted 6, then 8, then 10. The gunfight that followed was nothing like movies. It was loud, chaotic, brutal. Alessandro moved like he'd been trained for this his entire life. Economical movements, perfect aim, absolutely ruthless. But they were outnumbered. I watched Sophia take a bullet to the shoulder, watched her keep fighting anyway, watched one of the attackers flank her while she was reloading, watched Alessandro see it too late, watched the man shoot Sophia 3 times in the chest. She dropped like a puppet with cut strings. "No," I whispered, pressing my hands against the monitor. "No, no, no." Alessandro's roar of rage was audible even through the steel door. He killed the man who'd shot Sophia with his bare hands, snapping his neck with a speed and violence that made my stomach turn. Then he kept fighting. 2 more attackers went down, then 3. Then the rest retreated, dragging their wounded with them. Silence fell. Alessandro dropped to his knees beside Sophia. Even through the grainy security feed, I could see her blood pooling on his expensive carpet. He pulled out his phone, made a call, pressed his hands against her wounds. Too late. I could see it from here. The way her body had gone still. The way her eyes stared at nothing. Sophia was dead. The woman who'd made me breakfast 3 days in a row, who'd smiled genuinely for the first time tonight. Dead, protecting me. I slid down the wall of the panic room, hugging my knees to my chest, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. This was Alessandro's world. Not designer suits and expensive wine. This, violence and blood and people dying on imported carpet. And I'd chosen to stay in it. Through the monitor, I watched Luca arrive with reinforcements. Watched them secure the penthouse, check bodies, report findings. Watched Alessandro carry Sophia's body to the couch with a gentleness that broke something in my chest. 20 minutes later, the panic room door opened.
Alessandro stood there, covered in blood, his suit ruined, his hands shaking slightly. "Are you hurt?" he asked. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. "We captured one alive," he said. "He's talking. You need to hear what he's saying." I stood on trembling legs, followed him out of the panic room. The penthouse looked like a war zone. Bullet holes in walls, shattered glass, blood everywhere, bodies being dragged away by men in dark clothes.
Alessandro led me to his study, where a man sat zip-tied to a chair. One of his men, I thought his name was Marco, stood over the prisoner with a gun. "Tell her," Alessandro said quietly. The man spit blood onto the floor, glared at me with pure hatred. "Volkov doesn't want the money," he said in thickly accented English. "He wants her. Mark has told him she has evidence, insurance, something that proves everything." He laughed, a wet, painful sound. "You're worth more alive than dead, pretty girl. For now." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I don't have any evidence. I don't know what he's talking about." "Marcus thinks you do," Alessandro said. "That's what matters." The captured man grinned, showing bloody teeth. "Volkov's coming. Not hit squad. Not soldiers. Him. Personally. And when he gets here..." Alessandro moved so fast I almost missed it. One moment he was standing beside me. The next, his gun was
pressed against the man's forehead. "When he gets here," Alessandro said softly, "he'll find out what happens when someone threatens what's mine." He pulled the trigger. The sound echoed through the study. The man slumped forward, held up only by the zip ties. I should have screamed, should have been horrified, but all I felt was numb. Alessandro turned to me, and in his eyes I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not just determination, not just protection, possession. "We need to talk," he said, privately. "Everything's about to change." He walked past the dead man like he was furniture, heading deeper into the penthouse. I followed. Because what else was I going to do? Sophia was dead. The Bratva wanted me alive. And the only thing standing between me and whatever Volkov had planned was a man who'd just killed someone without hesitation. In his study. In his home. Like it meant nothing. Alessandro stopped at the door to his private office, turned to look at me. "I brought you here to protect you," he said quietly. "But protection isn't going to be enough anymore." "Then what is?" He opened the door. "Come inside," he said. "Let me show you." Alessandro's private office was smaller than his study, but somehow more personal. No corkboard of surveillance photos, no massive desk, just a leather couch, a few chairs, built-in bookshelves filled with actual books that looked red, and a wet bar in the corner. He poured himself 3 fingers of something amber, drank half of it in one swallow. "Want some?" he asked. "Yes." He poured me the same amount. I drank it like water. It burned going down, but the warmth that spread through my chest was worth it. Outside the office, I could hear Luca coordinating cleanup. Men speaking in low voices. The sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. I tried not to think about what something heavy meant. Alessandro gestured to the couch. I sat. He took the chair across from me, close enough to talk, but maintaining that careful distance he always kept. "I'm sorry about Sophia," I said quietly. "So am I." He stared into his glass. She'd been with me for 4 years, good at her job, better person. She smiled at me tonight, right before... I couldn't finish. "I know, I saw." He drained the rest of his drink, set the glass down with careful precision. "She died doing what she signed up for. Doesn't make it easier, but it's what she chose. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, nothing I say will make this better." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "But I need you to understand something, Isabel. What happened tonight? This is my world. Violence, death, difficult choices. And you're in it now, whether you want to be or not. I didn't ask for this. I know." He met my eyes. "I was at the gala to kill Marcus. Had it planned for weeks. Clean shot, untraceable weapon, 3 different exit strategies. But then you fell into my lap. You've mentioned that. What I haven't mentioned is why I didn't take the shot afterward. Marcus was standing 10 feet away. I could have ended this right there." He paused. "But I saw your face. How terrified you were. And I realized killing him in front of you would destroy something in you. Something I wasn't willing to break." My throat tightened. "So you let him live." "I chose you over the mission. First time in my life I've done that." He said it like a confession. "And that choice has put us both in danger. Because the Bratva isn't coming after just Marcus anymore. They're coming after me. And by extension, you. I thought about the captured man's words. Volkov wants her, not for money, for leverage, for control. What did he mean about evidence? I asked. Marcus must have told Volkov you have proof of his crimes. Insurance against betrayal, or leverage if things went bad. It's what smart criminals do. They keep documentation of everyone's crimes so nobody can turn on them without mutual destruction. But I don't have anything. Volkov doesn't know that. And even if he did, he wouldn't believe it. In his world, everyone has insurance. Everyone keeps receipts. Alessandro stood, paced to the window. Which means he'll keep coming for you, to get the evidence, or to eliminate the threat. Either way. An explosion rocked the building. Not close, maybe 3 floors down, but strong enough to rattle the windows and make the lights flicker. Alessandro was on his phone immediately. Luca, report. I couldn't hear the response, but I watched Alessandro's expression darken. How many? Pause. Fall back to the interior. Protocol 8. He ended the call, turned to me. They're hitting the building with everything they have. Luca counts at least 20 more soldiers, maybe 30. They're coming floor by floor. Can we escape? I can find a way. He crossed the room, knelt in front of me. We have maybe 10 minutes before they breach this floor, so I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. His hands covered mine. Warm, solid, anchoring me when everything else felt like it was spinning out of control. There's only one way to make you untouchable to the Bratva, he said. Only one thing that would make killing you or taking you more trouble than it's worth. What? Marry me. I stared at him. What? In the world I come from, there are rules. Old rules that everyone follows because breaking them means war with every allied family. And one of the oldest rules is this. You don't touch a boss's wife. Ever. It's suicide. It's declaring war on not just one organization, but every organization with ties to that family. Another explosion. Closer this time. The building shuddered. I don't understand, I said. If you're my wife, legally, publicly, officially, then taking you or hurting you means the Bratva goes to war with every family allied with mine. Russian, Italian, Irish, even some of the cartels. It's a line they won't cross because the cost is too high. You're asking me to marry you to stop the Bratva from killing me. I'm asking you to marry me to make you untouchable. He squeezed my hands. It's not romance, Isabel. It's strategy. But it works. It's the only thing that works. Gunfire erupted somewhere in the building. Automatic weapons from the sound of it. They're on this floor, Alessandro said. We're out of time. I need an answer. My mind raced. Marriage. To a man I'd known for 4 days. A man who'd been watching me for 6 weeks before that. A man who'd just killed someone in cold blood in his study without blinking. But also a man who'd chosen not to kill Marcus because he didn't want to hurt me. Who'd protected me when he had no reason to. Who'd made sure my mother was cared for without being asked. A man who'd said, "You're safe with me now," and meant it. If I say yes, I heard myself ask, what happens? I have a judge on call. We get married tonight. Right now. I announce it to every family head in the city by morning. The Bratva finds out they can't touch you without starting a war. Marcus loses his leverage. And you get to live. And what do you get? His expression shifted. Something raw flickered in his eyes before he buried it. I get to keep you safe, he said quietly. That's enough. The door to the office shook. Someone trying to breach it from the outside. Decide, Alessandro said. Now. I thought about Sophia, dead on the couch protecting me. About Marcus, obsessed and dangerous. About Volkov, coming personally to take what he thought I had. I thought about my mother in her care facility, not remembering my name, but finally getting the treatment she deserved. I thought about the surveillance photos in Alessandro's study. Weeks of watching me, learning me, caring enough to not kill a man in front of me even when it would have been easier. The door shuddered again, wood splintering. "Yes," I said. Alessandro's eyes widened. Just for a second, I saw pure relief before his mask snapped back into place. He pulled a phone from his pocket, dialed, waited one ring. "We're doing this! Now!" Another explosion. The lights went out again. Emergency lighting kicked in. Alessandro pulled me to my feet, led me to the wall behind his desk, pressed something and a section swung inward. Another hidden passage. "This leads to a secret exit outside. I have cars waiting," he said. The office door burst open. Men poured in, shouting in Russian. Alessandro shoved me into the passage, followed, sealed it behind us just as bullets hit where we'd been standing. We ran through darkness, his hand iron tight on mine, pulling me forward. Downstairs, through corridors, past security doors that opened for him and closed behind us. In the distance, explosions continued. I never thought my wedding day would smell like gunpowder and fear. The tunnel Alessandro led me through was narrow, concrete, cold. My borrowed heels kept catching on uneven ground. Behind us, explosions still shook the building, muffled now, distant, but constant reminders that people were dying up there. People trying to kill us. "Keep moving," Alessandro said. His hand gripped mine, warm and solid. Blood still seeped through the shoulder of his shirt from where a bullet had grazed him during the fight. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they figure out the tunnel system." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. Somewhere I can make you untouchable." The ring on my finger felt heavy. His grandmother's ring, he'd said. An antique with a single diamond that caught whatever dim light filtered through the tunnel. I'd agreed to marry him minutes ago, in his study, while his men fought off Bratva soldiers, trying to break through the doors. I'd said yes to a man I barely knew. Said yes because the alternative was worse. Said yes because when he looked at me and said, "I need an answer, Isabel," something in his eyes made me want to say yes. We emerged from the tunnel into an underground parking garage I didn't recognize. 3 black SUVs waited, engines running. Armed men stood guard around them. Alessandro led me inside one and shut the door behind me. The private estate was an hour outside the city, hidden behind walls and gates, and enough security to make Fort Knox jealous. Alessandro held my hand the entire drive. Didn't speak much. Just held my hand, thumb brushing over my knuckles in small circles, like he needed the contact as much as I did. When we finally arrived, dawn was breaking. Pink and gold light filtered through trees that looked ancient, untouched by the violence we'd just escaped. The house itself was modest compared to the penthouse. Stone and wood, built into the hillside, surrounded by gardens that probably looked beautiful in daylight. Right now, they just looked like shadows. "This way." Alessandro led me inside, through rooms filled with antique furniture and family photographs. I caught glimpses, a younger Alessandro with a girl who must have been his sister, an older couple who radiated authority even through picture frames. We went downstairs. The basement had been converted into something between a panic room and a command center. Computer screens lined one wall. Communications equipment filled another. And in the center, looking deeply uncomfortable, stood an older man in a rumpled suit. Judge Morrison. I recognized him from news coverage of organized crime trials. Mr. Vitale, the judge nodded stiffly. I came as quickly as I could. Appreciated. Alessandro's tone suggested he'd paid enough that appreciation was unnecessary. You have the license? Already filed electronically. Dated for tomorrow to avoid questions, but legally binding as of tonight. The judge pulled papers from his briefcase. I assume there won't be witnesses? There will. Alessandro gestured to where Luca and 2 other men I didn't recognize had entered behind us. 3. That's legal, isn't it? More than sufficient. This was insane. I was standing in a basement at 3 a.m, about to marry a man who killed people for a living, witnessed by armed guards, and officiated by a judge who was clearly on someone's payroll. And I was going through with it. Isabel. Alessandro turned to me. You can still say no. I'll find another way to protect you. It might not be as effective, but no. I cut him off. I already said yes. I meant it. Something flickered in his expression. Relief, maybe. Or fear. Hard to tell with Alessandro. He kept so much locked down. Then let's begin, Judge Morrison said. He opened a small book, cleared his throat. Dearly beloved. Skip to the vows, Alessandro interrupted. We don't have time for the full ceremony. The judge looked scandalized, but complied. Very well. Alessandro Vitale, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? Alessandro's eyes never left mine. I do. Isabel. The judge hesitated. I'm sorry I don't have your full legal name. Moretti, I said quietly. Isabel Rose Moretti. I saw Alessandro's reaction to my middle name, a slight softening around his eyes, like he'd just learned something precious. Isabel Rose Moretti, the judge continued, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? This was it. The moment that would change everything. Behind us, somewhere above ground, the world was looking for us. Marcus was out there, obsessed and dangerous. The Bratva wanted me dead or captured, and I was about to tie myself legally, permanently, to the one man who could protect me, or destroy me. I looked at Alessandro, really looked at him. He'd killed people tonight. I'd watched him do it, efficient and brutal and without hesitation. But he'd also held my hand in the tunnel, called my name softly when I froze during the gunfight, put himself between me and danger without thinking twice. And when he proposed, when he knelt in that study with explosions shaking the walls, he'd looked at me like I was worth dying for. I do, I said. Then, by the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Judge Morrison snapped his book closed. You may kiss the bride. Alessandro cupped my face in both hands. His kiss was gentle, careful, like I was something fragile he didn't want to break. When he pulled back, his thumb brushed my cheek. Mrs. Vitale, he murmured. That's going to take some getting used to. We've got time. Did we? With the Bratva hunting us and Marcus spiraling and danger closing in from every direction? But I didn't say that. Just let Alessandro sign the marriage certificate, then signed it myself, making it official. Isabel Vitale. The name looked foreign on paper, like it belonged to someone else. Someone braver than me. Someone who knew what she was doing. The judge left quickly, probably grateful to escape whatever mess he'd just witnessed. Luca and the other guards disappeared upstairs, giving us privacy. which left me alone with my husband in a basement command center, wearing borrowed clothes and his grandmother's ring, married in the least romantic ceremony imaginable. "You need rest," Alessandro said. "There's a bedroom upstairs. I don't want rest." I surprised myself by speaking. "Well, you need rest." He held out his hand. "Come with me." The bedroom was on the 3rd floor, tucked into a corner with windows overlooking the garden. Alessandro locked the door behind us. Not to keep me in, I realized. To keep danger out. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the bed. I sat. "I'm sorry," Alessandro said, and he sounded like he meant it. "I brought you into this to save you, but in doing so, I've trapped you in something you never asked for. You gave me a choice. Did I?" His laugh was bitter. "What choice? Die at Marcus's hands, die at Volkov's hands, or marry me and maybe survive? That's not a choice. That's coercion dressed up as options," he said, sitting down beside me. I turned to face him. "You're right," I said. "It wasn't a real choice, but I still made it. And I meant it when I said yes." "Why?" Alessandro's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Why would you tie yourself to someone like me? I'm not a good man, Isabel. I've done things. I know what you've done." I cut him off. "I saw you kill those men tonight. I know who you are, Alessandro. What you are." "Then why? Because when I fell into your lap at that gala, you didn't take advantage. You protected me. And when Marcus came over, you looked at me and said, 'You're safe with me now.' And I believed you." I reached for his hand. "Maybe that makes me naive. Maybe I'm going to regret this. But right now, in this moment, I trust you more than I've trusted anyone in a long time." Alessandro stared at our joined hands. Then, slowly, he brought mine to his lips, kissed my knuckles softly. "I don't deserve that trust," he murmured against my skin, "but I'll do everything I can to earn it." "Then start by being honest with me. About everything. No more secrets. No more half-truths. If we're really married, if this is really happening, I need to know what I'm dealing with." He nodded. Outside, birds were starting to sing. Dawn had fully arrived, painting the room in soft gold light. My wedding morning. "Alessandro," I said quietly, "what happens now?" "Now we wait. Let the marriage announcement spread. Give Volkov time to realize killing you means war he can't win." Alessandro stood, held out his hand. "And we try to survive long enough to find a permanent solution." "Which is?" "I don't know yet." He pulled me to my feet. "But we'll figure it out. Together." Together? Such a strange word to use with a man I'd known for less than a week. A man I'd just married in a basement. A man who killed people but held my hand like it was precious. "I should let you rest," Alessandro said, stepping back. "You've been through—" I kissed him. Didn't think about it. Didn't plan it. Just pulled him down and kissed him like it was the only thing that made sense in a world gone completely insane. He froze for half a second. Then his arms came around me, pulling me close, kissing me back with an intensity that stole my breath. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alessandro rested his forehead against mine. "Isabel, we're married," I said. "Really married. Not just on paper." "Yes." "Then stop treating me like I'm going to break. Stop holding back." I said yes, Alessandro. I meant it. All of it. His hands tightened on my waist. "If we do this, we already did this. We said vows, signed papers. I'm wearing your ring." I met his eyes. "Now make it real." I woke up alone. The bed beside me was cold, which meant Alessandro had been gone for a while. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Late morning, maybe early afternoon. I sat up slowly, muscles aching from last night. From the escape, the fear, the wedding, from everything that came after. My dress, the borrowed one from the penthouse, lay draped over a chair. Someone had brought my things here while I slept. A suitcase I didn't recognize sat by the closet. On the nightstand, a note in sharp handwriting. Downstairs when you're ready. Take your time. Alessandro. I showered in the attached bathroom, letting hot water wash away the blood and smoke and terror from last night. When I finally emerged, wrapped in a towel, I found clothes laid out on the bed, in my exact size. Jeans, soft sweater, undergarments still in packaging, even shoes that fit perfectly. Alessandro had been watching long enough to know my measurements, my style, my preferences. Should have creeped me out. Instead, it felt like care. I dressed quickly and headed downstairs. Voices drifted from what sounded like a dining room. Male voices, mostly, arguing about something in Italian. I paused at the doorway. Alessandro sat at the head of a long table, looking exhausted but alert. His shoulder was properly bandaged now, white gauze showing under his fresh shirt. Around him sat 5 people I didn't recognize, 4 men and 1 woman. The woman saw me first. "Well," she said in accented English, "she's real. I was starting to think you made her up." Alessandro's head snapped toward the doorway. His expression softened when he saw me. "Isabel." He stood. "Come in. There are people you should meet." I entered cautiously. "My inner circle," Alessandro explained, gesturing around the table. "Dante, my second in command." A man in his 40s with gray at his temples nodded. Sharp eyes assessed me coldly. "Marco, my consigliere, advisor." Older, maybe 60, with the look of someone who'd seen everything twice. Enzo and Paolo handle security and enforcement. 2 younger men, built like walls, who looked at me with curiosity rather than suspicion. And my sister, Julia. The woman who'd spoken first smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She was beautiful, dark hair, sharp features, Alessandro's same intense gaze. "The wife," Julia said. "Congratulations on your whirlwind romance." Sarcasm dripped from every word. "Julia," Alessandro warned. "What? I'm being welcoming." She stood, circled the table to face me directly. "Can we get back to business?" Dante cut in. "We've got bigger problems than family introductions." Alessandro gestured for me to sit beside him. I did, feeling everyone's eyes on me. "Update," Alessandro said to Dante. "Volkov's mobilizing. 3 more shipments of soldiers arrived from Moscow overnight. Current count is 76 Bratva operatives in Seattle, all armed, all looking for you and," Dante glanced at me, "your wife." "What about Marcus?" "Gone to ground. We've got feelers out but nothing solid. He's probably holed up somewhere, waiting for Volkov to do his dirty work." Marco pulled out a folder. "But we've got a bigger problem." "What?" "Someone in your organization is feeding information to the Bratva." Marco slid papers across the table. "They knew about the tunnel system in your building, knew where to hit, when to hit. That's not luck, that's intelligence." Alessandro's jaw tightened. "You're saying we've got a traitor." "I'm saying someone talked. Whether for money or coercion, I don't know. But the leak is real." I watched Alessandro process this. His fingers drummed once on the table, the only sign of tension. "Enzo, Paolo, I want background checks on everyone who had access to that building's schematics. Everyone, including family." He looked at each person around the table. "No exceptions." "Including us?" Julia asked. "Including everyone?" Alessandro's voice was steel. "Someone betrayed us. I'm going to find out who." The meeting continued, discussions of security protocols, safe house locations, contingency plans. I listened, trying to follow the rapid-fire Italian mixed with English. These people weren't just Alessandro's employees. They were his family, his trust circle, the people he'd built his empire with, and one of them might be trying to destroy it. After an hour, Alessandro called a break. The room cleared except for Julia, who lingered near the windows. "You should go," Alessandro said to me gently. "Get some food, rest. I want to help." "Isabel, I'm part of this now. You said so yourself. I'm your wife. That means I'm involved whether you like it or not." I stood my ground. "So stop trying to protect me from information and let me help." Alessandro looked at Julia. She shrugged. "She's right. She's family now. Might as well learn how the family works." "Fine." Alessandro pulled out a chair. "Sit. But understand, what you're about to hear, you can never repeat. To anyone. Ever." I sat. For the next hour, Alessandro explained his organization. Not just the criminal side, the legitimate businesses too. Real estate holdings, restaurants, construction companies. A complex web of legal and illegal that funded everything from schools to protection rackets. "We're not the mafia you see in movies," he said. "We don't deal drugs, don't traffic people, don't prey on civilians. We handle gambling, loan sharking, some gray market imports. But we have rules, lines we don't cross." "Why?" "Because my father built this organization on respect, not fear. He believed you could be powerful without being evil, that you could protect your people without destroying innocence." Alessandro's expression softened. When he died, I inherited that philosophy. It's made us different. Smaller than some families, but more stable, more loyal. "Except someone isn't loyal," I said quietly. "Except that." Julia rejoined us, carrying 3 espressos. Set them down without asking. "So," she said, settling into a chair, "what's your story, Isabel? Before my brother dragged you into our world?" I hesitated. "She wants to know if you're worth the trouble," Alessandro translated. "If you're strong enough to survive this life." "I don't know if I am," I admitted. "But I'm trying." Julia studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "That's honest. I can work with honest." She sipped her espresso. "Our world doesn't have room for weakness, Isabel. The other families will test you, push you, try to find cracks they can exploit. You'll need to be harder than they expect, smarter than they assume, and absolutely loyal to Alessandro, because the moment they sense division, they'll use it," I finished. "Exactly." Julia leaned forward. "So let me ask you directly. Are you planning to stay? Or are you counting days until you can divorce him and disappear?" The question hung in the air. I looked at Alessandro. He watched me with those dark eyes, expression unreadable. "I don't know," I said honestly. "A week ago I was working at a nonprofit, visiting my sick mother, trying to rebuild my life after a bad relationship. Now I'm married to a man I barely know, hiding from the Russian mob, and learning about money laundering operations over espresso." I took a breath. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'll stay or run. But right now, in this moment, I'm here. And I'm trying to understand this world you've brought me into. Julia smiled. Really smiled this time. "Good answer." She stood. "Alessandro, I like her. She's honest, which is more than I can say for most of the women who've tried to get close to you. There haven't been women trying to get close to me. Because you don't let them." Julia headed for the door, paused. "But you let her in less than a week. That means something, Fratellino. Figure out what, before it's too late." She left. Alessandro and I sat in silence. "She's protective," I finally said. "She's the only family I have left." Parents gone. Older brother dead. Just me and Julia. Alessandro reached for my hand. She watched me close myself off after Maria died. Watched me build walls for 20 years. Now suddenly I bring home a wife, and she doesn't know what to make of it. Maria? I asked. Alessandro was quiet for a long time. Maria was my younger sister, he finally said. 17, beautiful, smart, full of life. A rival family kidnapped her to get leverage over my father. I went to make the exchange, myself for her, but they killed her anyway. Right in front of me. Shot her 3 times while I was tied up, unable to move, unable to help. My heart broke for him. I was 19, Alessandro continued. Spent the next 6 months hunting down everyone involved. Made them pay, made them suffer. When it was over, I'd eliminated an entire branch of their family, burned their territory to the ground, became someone to fear instead of someone to target. And you've been that person ever since. Until you fell into my lap, and I remembered what it felt like to want to protect someone instead of just destroy threats. He looked at me. You scare me, Isabel. I scare you? Because if something happens to you, if I fail to protect you the way I failed to protect Maria, I don't know if I'll survive it this time. I squeezed his hand. Then don't fail. His laugh was soft, sad. If only it were that simple. The secure phone rang at 2 a.m. I was awake anyway, had been for hours, lying next to Alessandro while he slept, watching shadows move across the ceiling and thinking about everything that had changed in less than a week. The ring shattered the silence. Alessandro was up instantly, gun in hand before his eyes were fully open. Years of living this life had made him react before thinking. It's the secure line, I said quietly. The one you gave me. He lowered the gun, checked the caller ID. His expression went cold. Camila, he said, handing me the phone. Your friend. I had asked Alessandro to give her the number days ago in case anything urgent came up. I answered. Hello? Isabel? Camilla's voice was wrecked, sobbing. Oh God, Isabel, please. I need to talk to you. Her words dissolved into crying. Alessandro was already out of bed, pulling on clothes, making silent hand signals to someone outside the door. Security, probably. Getting ready for whatever this was. Cam, what's wrong? I asked, panicking a bit. Everything's wrong. Marcus called me. He knows you're married. He knows you're with Vitale. And she choked on the words. He's threatening my family, Isabel. My mom, my little brother. He said if I don't help him find you, he'll hurt them. My stomach dropped. Where are you right now? Home, but there are men outside, watching my building. I think they're his people. I'm scared, Isabel. I'm so scared. Alessandro was listening, his expression unreadable. He pulled out his own phone, sent a rapid series of texts. Camilla, I said carefully, when did Marcus first contact you about me? Silence, then quietly. A long time ago. How long? 18 months. The admission came out broken. Right after you left him. He called, asked how you were doing, where you'd moved, if you were seeing anyone. I thought he was just heartbroken, trying to move on. And you told him. I thought I was helping. Thought maybe you two could get closure, work things out. Work things out? I cut her off, voice sharper than I meant it to be. Cam, he hit me, multiple times. You knew that. You helped me pack my things and leave. I know, but he said he'd changed, said he was in therapy. And he sounded so sorry. She was crying again. I made a mistake. I know that now. But I thought, what else did you tell him? Everything. The word was barely a whisper. Every time you moved, every new job, every address, he'd call every few weeks, ask casual questions, and I'd answer because I thought. She stopped. Because he was paying me. There it was. Alessandro's eyes met mine. He'd heard it too. How much? I asked. It started small. 500 for an address, 1,000 for your work schedule. Then 6 months ago, he offered 50,000 if I could get you to attend the charity gala. Said he just wanted to apologize in person, to say goodbye properly. $50,000. My best friend had sold me out for $50,000. I didn't know about the Russians, Camilla was saying, words tumbling out fast now. Didn't know about the danger. Marcus said he just wanted closure, wanted to see you one last time. I swear, Isabel, if I'd known what he was really doing. But you took the money anyway. My mom's medical bills were crushing me, student loans, rent. I was drowning. Her voice broke. I told myself I wasn't really hurting you, just giving Marcus information about someone he used to care about. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. I looked at Alessandro. He was watching me with those dark eyes, reading every emotion on my face. Camila, he said loud enough for her to hear through the phone. This is Alessandro Vitale. You remember me? Yes. Her voice went small, terrified. Good. Listen very carefully. You're going to pack a bag right now. Essential items only. In 30 minutes, one of my cars will pick you up from your building's service entrance. Get in. Don't ask questions. Understood? Why? Where are you taking me? Somewhere Marcus can't find you. Somewhere his people can't threaten your family. Alessandro's tone allowed no argument. You have 2 choices. Trust me, or take your chances with Marcus. But decide fast because this offer expires in exactly 30 seconds. I'll be ready, Camila said immediately. Alessandro ended the call. The room felt too quiet. She's been feeding him information for 18 months, I said, mostly to myself. That's how he always found me. Every time I moved, changed jobs, tried to start over, she told him where I was. Yes. My best friend. The person I trusted most in the world besides. I stopped. Besides who? My mother was dying. I had no other family. Camila had been it. And she'd been selling me out the entire time. Alessandro sat beside me on the bed. Didn't touch me. Just sat close enough that I could feel his warmth. She didn't know the full extent of the danger, he said quietly. That's true. Marcus played her well, made it seem like he was just a heartbroken ex trying to move on. She's not innocent, but she's not evil either. Just desperate and foolish. You're defending her? No, I'm explaining her. There's a difference. He turned to face me. People make terrible choices when they're drowning. Camilla was drowning in debt, and Marcus threw her a lifeline. She grabbed it without looking at what was attached to the other end. What are you going to do with her? That depends on you. I looked at him. What do you mean? She's your friend. Was your friend. Whatever judgment we pass, it affects you most. Alessandro's expression was serious. So, I'm asking, what do you want me to do? What did I want? Part of me wanted to scream at Camilla, rage at her for the betrayal, for making it possible for Marcus to stalk me, terrorize me, nearly kill me. But another part, smaller, quieter, remembered all the times Camilla had been there. When my mom got diagnosed, when I left Marcus, when I had nobody else. She'd been my person. Until she wasn't. I don't want her dead, I said finally. But I don't want her near me either. Not now, maybe not ever. Alessandro nodded. Then we'll bring her in. Keep her and her family safe from Marcus. And when this is over, We'll send her somewhere far away with enough money to start fresh. But she'll know. One more mistake, one more betrayal, and I won't stop my people next time. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't murder either. Okay, I said. Camilla arrived 90 minutes later. She looked destroyed. Hair disheveled, eyes red and swollen, hands shaking as Julia, who'd volunteered to handle the pickup, led her into the safe house. When she saw me, she started crying again. Isabel, don't. I held up a hand. Just don't. We were in Alessandro's office. He sat behind his desk, Dante and Marco flanking him like sentries. I stood near the window, as far from Camilla as the room allowed. Sit, Alessandro said, gesturing to a chair in front of his desk. Camilla sat. She looked tiny in that chair, like a child called to the principal's office. Tell us everything, Alessandro said. Every interaction with Marcus, every piece of information you gave him, every payment. Start from the beginning. Camilla swallowed hard, then started talking. It was worse than I'd imagined. For 18 months, she'd been Marcus's primary source of intelligence on me. She'd given him my new apartment address within 3 days of me moving, told him about my job at the nonprofit, mentioned when I started seeing someone briefly, a guy from my yoga class who disappeared after 2 dates because Marcus had threatened him. He scared off anyone who got close to you, Camilla said, voice hollow. I didn't know that's what was happening. I just noticed you never dated anyone for long, and when I mentioned it to Marcus, he seemed pleased, because he'd been actively destroying any chance I had at moving on. The payments, Alessandro prompted, started small, a few hundred here and there, but 6 months ago he approached me about the gala, offered $50,000 if I could convince you to attend. Camilla looked at me. You'd been avoiding social events, staying home, working late. Marcus was getting frustrated, couldn't find ways to accidentally run into you anymore. So he paid you to make sure I'd be somewhere he could find me. Yes, she wiped her eyes. I thought it was his last attempt at closure. Thought maybe if you two talked, properly said goodbye, he'd finally leave you alone. And I needed the money so badly. Your mother's cancer treatment, Dante said, reading from a file. 200,000 in medical debt. Student loans, another 80,000. You were 3 months behind on rent. Camilla nodded miserably. The 50,000 would have solved everything. Or at least bought me time. Did Marcus ever mention the Bratva? Alessandro asked. The Russians? Money laundering? No, never. He just talked about you, Isabel. About how much he missed you, how he'd made mistakes, how he wanted a chance to make things right. Camilla's hands twisted in her lap. I didn't know about any of the criminal stuff until Julia told me in the car. I swear. Alessandro glanced at Marco. His consigliere nodded slightly. She was telling the truth. What about the men watching your building tonight? Alessandro asked. Marcus's people, you said? I think so. They showed up yesterday, 3 of them taking shifts. Just watching. When Marcus called tonight and threatened my family, I knew they were his, making sure I cooperated. Did you tell him where Isabel is? No! Camilla looked horrified. No, I swear. I didn't tell him anything. That's why I called, because I didn't know what to do. Alessandro studied her for a long moment. Then he looked at me. Your call, he said quietly. Everyone in the room turned to face me. I looked at Camilla, at the friend who'd known me since college, who'd held my hand through my mother's diagnosis, who'd helped me escape Marcus the first time, the friend who'd also been selling information about me for a 1.5 years. You broke my trust, I said, voice steadier than I felt. For money, for your own problems. You chose yourself over me every single time Marcus called. I know. I'm not finished. I moved closer. You convinced yourself you weren't really hurting me, that it was harmless information about an old friend. But you knew, Cam. Deep down, you knew it was wrong. Otherwise, you would have told me about it. She couldn't meet my eyes. But, I continued, you also didn't know about the Bratva. Didn't know Marcus had made me a target for the Russian mob. Didn't know that information you gave him was helping him stalk me. I swear I didn't. I believe you. The words hurt to say. I believe you thought you were just helping a heartbroken ex, that you didn't understand the full danger. But that doesn't erase what you did. Silence. Then Camilla spoke, voice barely above a whisper. What happens to me now? I looked at Alessandro. He gave a slight nod, giving me permission to decide. You're going to stay here, I said. Under protection, until this situation with Marcus and the Bratva is resolved. Then Alessandro's people are going to relocate you. Somewhere far from Seattle. Somewhere Marcus can never find you. They'll set you up with a new identity, help you disappear. And you? Camilla asked. Will I ever see you again? No. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Isabel. No, I repeated. You made your choices. You sold me out for 18 months. You helped Marcus terrorize me, even if you didn't realize that's what you were doing. I can understand why you did it. I can even forgive you eventually. But I can't trust you. Not anymore. Tears streamed down Camilla's face. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this. Alessandro stood. Julia will show you to your room. You'll stay there until we figure out what to do with the men watching your building. Don't try to contact anyone. Don't use your phone. Don't leave without permission. Understand? Camilla nodded. Julia led her out. The door closed, leaving me alone with Alessandro, Dante, and Marco. That was harder than killing her would have been, Dante observed. Killing her would have been easier, I agreed. For everyone. But she didn't deserve to die. She just deserved to lose me. Alessandro moved around his desk, pulled me into his arms. I let him hold me while the grief crashed over me. Because Camilla hadn't just been my friend. She'd been my last connection to my old life. The life before Marcus. Before the Bratva. Before all of this. And now that connection was severed. You did the right thing, Alessandro murmured against my hair. Showed mercy without being weak. That takes strength. Doesn't feel strong. Feels like I'm losing pieces of myself. You're not losing yourself. You're discovering who you really are when everything else is stripped away. He pulled back to look at me. And who you are is someone who can make hard choices without becoming hard. That's rare, Isabel. In my world, that's almost unheard of. Marco cleared his throat. Boss, we need to discuss the surveillance on Camilla's building. If Marcus has men watching her apartment, he knows we picked her up. Let him know, Alessandro said. Let him wonder where we took her. It'll make him nervous, sloppy. Or more desperate, Dante countered. Either way, it works in our favor. Alessandro released me, moved back to his desk. Marco, I want full background checks on everyone in Camilla's life. Family, friends, co-workers. If Marcus is using her as a source, he might have other sources too. Already on it. Dante, pull the surveillance footage from Camilla's building. I want to know who those men are, who they're working for. If they're Marcus's people, or Bratva. What if they're both? Dante asked. Then we have a bigger problem than I thought. I watched them work, falling into the easy rhythm of strategy and planning. This was Alessandro's world. Chess games played with human lives. Decisions made based on tactics rather than emotions. And somehow, I was part of it now. The wife of a crime boss. Learning to navigate betrayal and mercy in the same breath. Later, after Dante and Marco left, after security had been doubled and Camilla was locked in a guest room under guard, Alessandro found me on the balcony. I was staring at the city lights, thinking about friendship and trust and all the ways people could hurt each other without meaning to. "You okay?" he asked. "No, but I will be." He stood beside me, close but not touching, giving me space to process. "I meant what I said earlier," he told me, "about trust not being about never being wrong. It's about surviving when you are." "Did you learn that the hard way?" "Everyone in my life has learned that the hard way." He looked out at the city. "When my sister Maria died, I trusted the wrong people. Believed they'd honor the exchange, me for her. They didn't. They killed her anyway, and I spent the next 6 months learning that trust is a luxury I couldn't afford." "But you're trusting me." "Yes." "Why?" Alessandro was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to face me. "Because when you fell into my lap at that gala, you looked at me like I was dangerous. And you were right, I am. But you didn't run. Didn't try to use me. Just asked me to help you stay safe." He reached for my hand. "Everyone else who gets close to me wants something. Power, money, protection. You just wanted to survive. That's honest. And in my world, honesty is rarer than diamonds. What if I want more than survival now?" "Like what?" I looked at our joined hands, at the ring he'd given me in a basement while the world burned outside. "I don't know yet, but I'm starting to think maybe survival isn't enough anymore." Alessandro pulled me closer. "Then we'll figure out what enough looks like. Together." I leaned into him, letting his warmth chase away the cold that Camilla's betrayal had left behind. "Alessandro?" I said quietly. "Yeah?" "Thank you for letting me choose, for not just eliminating the problem. You're my wife. That means your choices matter, even when they're harder than mine would have been." We stood there in the darkness, holding each other while the city breathed below us. Inside, Camilla was probably crying, realizing she'd destroyed our friendship beyond repair. And somewhere out there, Marcus was planning his next move, getting more desperate, more dangerous. But for now, wrapped in Alessandro's arms, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. Not because someone was controlling me or owning me or making my choices, but because someone was standing beside me while I made my own. That, I was learning, was what real protection looked like. 3 days after Camilla's exile, I was going quietly insane. Alessandro had been handling business non-stop. Meetings with Dante and Marco, encrypted phone calls in Italian, hours locked in his office reviewing what he called intelligence reports. And he was keeping everything from me. Not directly, not by telling me to stay out of it, just by not volunteering information, by changing the subject when I asked questions, by treating me like I was still someone who needed protecting from reality, like I was still the woman who'd stumbled into his lap at a gala instead of the one who'd married him in a basement while bullets flew. I'd had enough. When he came out of his office at 2 p.m, the first time I'd seen him in 6 hours, I was waiting. "We need to talk," I said. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, tension in his jaw, the weight of whatever he'd been dealing with showing in every line of his body. "Can it wait? I've got 3 more calls." "No, it can't wait." I moved between him and his office door. "I'm your wife, not a house guest, not someone you need to shield from bad news. Your wife. That means I have a right to know what's happening." Alessandro studied me for a moment. Then he nodded. "You're right. Come with me." He led me back into his office. closed the door, gestured to the leather chair across from his desk while he settled behind it. Between us, his laptop displayed what looked like security footage, intelligence reports, photographs I couldn't quite make out from this angle. "How much do you want to know?" he asked seriously. "Everything. All of it. Stop filtering information like I'm fragile." "You're not fragile, but some of this is—" He stopped, reconsidered. "Okay, everything. But once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Understand?" "I understand." Alessandro turned his laptop to face me, started pulling up files. "Marcus has gone completely off the rails," he began. "His law firm is under federal investigation for money laundering. The partners voted to remove him 3 days ago. His assets are frozen. His apartment's been seized. Everything he built is gone." He showed me surveillance photos. Marcus looking gaunt, unshaven, wild-eyed. Nothing like the polished lawyer I'd once known. "But instead of making him less dangerous," Alessandro continued, "it's made him more desperate, more unpredictable." "What's he doing?" "According to my sources, he's tried to hire 3 different hitmen to kill me. Offered them ridiculous amounts of money he doesn't have. When that didn't work, he made direct contact with Volkov." My stomach dropped. "The Bratva boss?" "Yes. He offered himself as an asset in exchange for one thing: getting you back." Alessandro pulled up what looked like transcripts. Intercepted communications between Marcus and Volkov's organization. I scanned them, saw Marcus offering to testify against me, against Alessandro, against everyone, claiming I'd been part of the money laundering scheme from the beginning, that I'd helped him steal the 15 million. All lies. Desperate, transparent lies, but dangerous ones. "Volkov's response?" I asked, voice steady despite the fear climbing my spine. "He's interested. Not because he believes Marcus, but because he sees an opportunity." Alessandro pulled up another file. Taking down Alessandro Vitale, me, would be a career-defining move. I control significant territory. Have alliances with 6 major families across the West Coast. If Volkov can eliminate me and take my territory, he becomes the most powerful Bratva boss outside of Russia. And the marriage that was supposed to protect me has painted an even bigger target on both of us. Yes. Alessandro's expression was grim. "Volkov doesn't just want you dead anymore. He wants you and me both eliminated. You because of the supposed evidence. Me because I'm in his way." He pulled up intelligence reports, surveillance on Bratva movements. "Over the past 72 hours, Volkov has mobilized everything, brought in reinforcements from 3 other cities. Current count is 86 soldiers in Seattle, all armed, all ready for war. He's contacting families, offering alliances, trying to isolate us." I looked at the reports, saw names, numbers, locations. A full-scale military operation disguised as organized crime. "We're outnumbered," I said quietly. "Significantly. In a straight fight, we'd lose." Alessandro pulled up another file. "But I don't plan on fighting straight." "What's your plan?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he pushed back from the desk, came around to perch on the edge in front of me. "I have 3 options," he said. "I want you to understand all of them before we decide." "We?" I repeated. "You're asking my opinion?" "You're my wife. This affects you as much as me. More, maybe, since you're the one Marcus wants." Alessandro took my hands. "So, yes, we decide. Together." Something in my chest loosened. Because he meant it. This wasn't lip service. He was actually giving me partnership. "Option 1, he continued. We run. Abandon everything. My organization, my territory, our identities. Disappear completely. I have resources, contacts. We could vanish, start over somewhere Volkov would never find us. What happens to your family? Your people? They'd be vulnerable without my protection. Some would survive. Some wouldn't. His expression darkened. Running means abandoning everyone who depends on me. But it means you survive. Option 2? I asked. We negotiate. Find something Volkov wants badly enough to buy peace. Maybe the 15 million Marcus stole, if I can track it down. Maybe territory. Maybe information on his rivals. Something valuable enough that he'd agree to leave us alone. Would that work? Maybe. For a while. But men like Volkov don't honor agreements they're forced into. Eventually, he'd come for us anyway. Negotiation just buys time, not safety. And option 3? Alessandro's eyes went cold, hard. We fight. Full war. I call in every alliance, every favor owed. We make this so costly for Volkov that he either backs down or gets destroyed in the process. Winner takes all. Loser dies. What are the odds we survive that? Honestly, 50-50. Maybe worse. He squeezed my hands. War is chaos, Isabel. Even with good planning, good people, good strategy, things go wrong. And when they do, people die. I looked at our joined hands, at the ring on my finger that symbolized a marriage that had started as strategy, but had become something more. Which option do you want? I asked. Doesn't matter what I want. This is about what we decide together. Alessandro, I mean it. He pulled me to stand, held me close. I've spent my entire adult life making decisions alone, carrying everything alone. But I married you. That means you're not just in danger because of my choices. You're part of making them. So tell me, honestly, what do you think we should do? I thought about running, disappearing, starting over with new names in some country that didn't care about Seattle's criminal underworld. It sounded safe. It also sounded like living in fear forever. Always looking over our shoulders. Always wondering when Volkov would find us anyway. I thought about negotiating, buying time, maybe finding a way to peace without more bloodshed. But Alessandro was right. Men like Volkov didn't honor forced agreements. We'd just be delaying the inevitable. Which left option 3. War. If we fight, I said slowly, and we win, what happens then? Then we're safe. Volkov's eliminated or weakened enough that he's no longer a threat. Marcus loses his only ally, and we get to actually live instead of just survive. And if we lose, then we die, but at least we die fighting instead of running. I pulled back to look at him. This man who'd killed for me, married me, given me choices when he could have just made decisions. I don't want to run, I said, and I don't want to negotiate for peace we both know won't last. If this is happening, if war is coming anyway, I'd rather face it head on than spend the rest of my life waiting for it to catch up. Alessandro searched my eyes. You're sure? Because once we commit to this path, I'm sure. And I was, terrifyingly, impossibly sure. We fight. He kissed me then, hard and desperate and full of promises we might not survive to keep. When we broke apart, both breathing heavy, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm not choosing anything, he said quietly, echoing what he'd told me minutes ago. We are. You're not just under my protection anymore, Isabel. You're my wife. This is your life now, too. Whatever decision we make together. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. Emergency alert. Alessandro read the message. His expression went cold, calculating. The office door burst open. Dante stood there, face grim. Boss, we've got confirmation. Volkov just greenlit the operation. The words hit like physical blows. Alessandro turned to me, taking both my hands in his. I need you to understand something, he said, voice soft but deadly serious. As of right now, we're not just targets. We're at war. Volkov won't stop until one of us is dead, him or me, and anyone close to me is in the crossfire. What are you saying? I'm saying our lives, both of our lives, are at stake now. Every decision we make from this moment forward is life or death. There's no going back, no safe option, no guarantee we survive this. He searched my eyes, looking for doubt, for fear, for any sign I wanted to reconsider. I brought you into this world to protect you, he continued. But now that protection might be what kills us both. So I need to know, are you with me? Completely? Because what comes next, there's no room for doubt. I thought about Marcus, spiraling into madness, about Volkov, mobilizing an army, about the life I'd had a week ago, safe, small, controlled by fear. And then I thought about the life I had now, dangerous, complicated, but mine, actually mine, built on choices I'd made instead of choices made for me. I looked at Alessandro, at the man who'd changed everything by simply saying, "You're safe with me now." And I realized something. I was safe with him. Not because he could protect me from everything, nobody could, but because he stood beside me instead of in front of me. Because he gave me partnership instead of ownership. Because he made me stronger instead of keeping me weak. I opened my mouth to tell him yes, that I was with him, that whatever came next, we'd face it together. But before I could speak. So here's the real question. Is Isabel ready to become a mafia wife for real? Not just on paper, but in blood and war? Drop a comment with your guess and we'll see next time.